Hi everyone, Larry Wynn, CEO at Summit Imaging and Ultrasound and Mammography Equipment Support Organization. And first and foremost, we're always working to contribute to the HDM community. We want to help you as much as possible, helping you service your own equipment. We love what everybody's doing because the cost savings that you bring to healthcare really helps bring those, bending that cost of healthcare back down to increase patient access, improve patient care, and as a general population, just make everybody feel better and more healthy. So first, thank you for all of that. And what we wanted to share with you today was to teach you about how to slave hard drives. And why is that important? Well, slaving hard drives is a very normal thing and very common occurrence in all other industries. And we wanted to take that very basic thing and show you how to do that because there's a lot of information that's available to you to service your own equipment very quickly, very accurately, and avoiding that catastrophic equipment downtime. So a hard drive is something like this. And with all the devices that we work on nowadays, from everything from at home to our desktop computers, to the beautiful laptops that we use every day, to even medical devices, all over the world have moved to computer-based systems. We've been seeing this movement and trend since the early 2000s, where this technology that used to be very analog in medical devices has moved towards this digital age and has afforded so much power to the equipment that allows for enormous imaging potential, and you're seeing these gains every year by the awesome equipment that's being manufactured all over the world to help patients. But what we want to chat about today is that the information on this hard drive that's inside devices, you are able to get a lot of information to quickly diagnose the problems of your equipment. So we talked about quicker diagnosis, but why else would it be useful? Well, a user may call in for a service on a piece of failing equipment. Well, what if you arrive and the system doesn't boot? Or the monitor isn't working and you're trying to find the fault? Or if it's an intermittent issue, or the error might pop on the screen and then they'll go away from a power recycle, and the user can then resume scanning after you reboot the system. But what if the user isn't afforded the time to capture the information that was on the screen? Well, you don't need that if you have the ability to slave a hard drive, because the information is likely stored on this small piece of device. So this allows for elongating equipment downtime by being able to instantly and accurately diagnose what the problem is, so you can get the right replacement parts, and then the next day when the parts arrive, you make the installation and you're ready and you're up and going and you're scanning patients again. So first, let's talk about the types of hard drives. So there's a couple of different things. There's one variable, which is the file structure, and the one to watch out for is the NTFS file structure. And the reason why watching out isn't really a concerning definition here, it's just it determines which kind of devices you can use to surf that file structure. So NTFS has been around a very long time. Microsoft Windows, if you're using that as a primary computer to go read the files on this drive here, can read it just fine. Mac products, as long as it's a full operating system, can read them just fine. But we'll get into some details when you're kind of looking at some mobile operating systems like iOS may have some struggles on reading NTFS. However, there's some operating systems out there that don't rely on the NTFS file structure. And so you might think of FAT32, and there's a host of other ones. And that is something that an iOS device can definitely surf those files, and using that search function through the file directory, you might be able to find what you need. So that's the digital consideration of a hard drive. And then there's also a physical consideration. And so the two main types of hard drives you're going to run into today are going to be SATA and IDE. SATA looks like this, and IDE looks like a set of pins. And those are the two main types of hard drives you're going to run into. And if you have this, we're going to show you now what equipment you need to be able to read the files on this hard drive so you can go get the information you need. So in addition to the hard drive itself, which you may extract from a device you're working on, you're going to need a device. We prefer a computer because there's no limitations on what kind of files you can read. But you can use a Windows-based PC or laptop like we have here, or you can use a Mac like you have here. Now these are two full-blown, complete operating systems that can read all the different file types. Androids, you can actually read NTFS file systems with some apps. And then when you're looking at iOS, it can read pretty much the majority of the file systems out there except for NTFS. So now we have kind of these four devices that we've designated as what you could use to read what's essentially on this hard drive. Now, so it is likely that you already have a laptop. It is likely that you've already removed the hard drive of the failing device. You're going to need two things in addition to that. A power supply. We've elected to use this power supply. They're very inexpensive. Check out the comments below. We have some recommendations on what you could use. But all this does is it plugs into power, and the other side will plug in to the hard drive to provide it power on its own. So here, and then we take this side and we plug it into an outlet. The other piece of equipment that you need is a USB to hard drive adapter. These are readily available. Check out the comments below. We'll have some links for you on some recommendations on what you could get. But this USB side is important because this plugs into your device that you're using. So in this particular case, it would be a Windows PC if we're using this over here. And on the other side, if you look closely, you actually have an IDE connector. But in this particular case, we're going to use a SATA. And so we will plug in the SATA here and plug in the hard drive here. So now with this hard drive getting power, the other side we actually will plug into our USB port. So now everything's plugged in. We have Windows powered up. We want to turn on the power supply to turn on the hard drive. Now, when you have the hard drive on your Windows PC, we'll use this as an example first, you'll see in your Explorer this drive show up. In this particular case, we're going to see an operating system drive show up as if we were just plugging in an external hard drive or a USB flash drive like you do at home. All right, so we're now on a Windows laptop. It could be a Windows desktop, but we're going to start on how to connect the hard drive and then go surf for the files, use some search functions, and really show you the power of Notepad. That is one of our favorite applications out there. It reads everything, and we'll show you how to do that. But first, we showed you the power supply and the USB to hard drive adapter cable. And I'm going to plug it in right now and also turn on the power supply after I plug in the USB cable to the hard drive. And now we're going to be surfing this hard drive that you had removed from your device to find some information. And from there, now we can go view it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have this information at all. I think what's really important here is that sometimes you might be troubleshooting, and you might get a part and you're trying to figure out if that part was the appropriate diagnosis or not, or if the part is still working. These forks in these types of roads with accurate information allows you to really move forward and progress in your service call and your troubleshooting, rather than kind of spinning in circles and trying to figure out what's what. And so as you can see, in this particular case, it automatically popped up, but if it doesn't pop up for you don't have those settings turned on Windows, you would go to File Explorer, and here you can see this new volume is called Operating System. We mocked up this hard drive just to show you the generalities of what's in here, but you can see that there's a lot of files and folders that are Windows based. So this is an NTFS hard drive. We're using a Windows laptop right now to go surf it, so therefore we can see everything. And I think right off the bat, it may not be this obvious, but there's some error logs and hardware logs we've mocked up here for this example. But oftentimes it might be 2 or 3 layers deep in the folder directory. So what we wanted to show you is that up here in your search, some of the most powerful tools are here. And 2 examples we want to show you today is error logs and hardware logs. Error logs are important is because that helps you for a quick and accurate diagnosis without reaching out to any external source. This can be all done in-house. And same for hardware. Hardware is important because what if it takes a really long time to disassemble a machine? Well, this allows you a quick way to actually fetch that information to know what replacement part you need. And so now that we have the hard drive connected, we want to open File Explorer to go actually find what we want to find. And so we can actually click on what we named this mock-up hard drive as Operating System, and the search function is here for us to select error. And it's because error is a very common term. You can already see that it actually returned some results here. We got lucky. The one that we're looking for is the top one, but you may be sifting through these things to find what you need to find. And you can even search for specific things, such as an error code that you might see on the screen. So we'll do that in a moment, but in this particular case, we actually have 2 files we want to show you. Notepad is our favorite application. It opens everything. So this is natively a TXT document, so I can just go ahead and double click on this. But you can see that this is the error log. System type is a mockup. The date's March 5th of 2020. Mockup, software version mockup 2.0. But it's often the case that an error has a date and then the fault code. So in this particular case, it's error code ABC123, something we made up, and it occurred on March 5th of 2020. And I think the important part here is that that error may have flashed on the screen and the stenographer or the user just didn't get a chance to record it. And so this is your way of actually getting that accurate error code so you know what's going on with the machine. And at this point, if it's an intermittent problem, you can actually start to hone in on, is this something that I can repair or service preemptively and prevent the catastrophic down in the first place? So, this is a great and accurate tool, Notepad, to go read all sorts of files. So this is a native text file. Let's go ahead and close this, and you actually may see XML files because it's very common practice for software to be built in really these web browser based type of programming languages, and XML is just one of them, HTML. But the cool part about Notepad is you can just right click any file. In this particular case, it's an XML file, and you hover over Open With, and then I got Notepad. If you don't see Notepad here, you would actually choose another app and go find Notepad, but Notepad is on every single Windows device. So we open with Notepad, and you're going to see the same information, but it's going to be with some kind of syntax that is indicative of HTML script and whatnot that you see online, but this is kind of the back end of it. So this is an error logs XML file, error fault code ABC123. You're kind of sifting through some of the syntax and the coding, but if you can look through that, then you actually have same line of sight as just reading it clear as day in another form. And the date here is associated to this error is March 2nd of 2020, and you can actually sift through this. I'm scrolling up and down here to show that all the different types of errors that may occur in the same error log. And sometimes you actually might have different error logs that actually represent different time frames. So if you're looking for a specific error on a specific date, this is a fantastic way to get an accurate diagnosis of what the user saw on the screen. Okay, so now if we have some information about the system build, oftentimes they're in here. So I'm actually going to, instead of searching for these terms like hardware and all that, we know it's right here. It's hardware logs. We showed you how to search for things and the power of that. But again, we go into hardware logs. We've mocked this up for us. Again, a text file natively opens in Notepad, our favorite application. You can see that it's very basic on the information that's in here. So part 1, serial number 1, part 2, serial number 2. But of course, that would be different information and possibly very meaningful to you that you may not have about the device you're looking at. And again, XML, right click, open with, Notepad, and voila, here he comes. You can see part 1, serial number 1, and it's just a different type of syntax, but the same content that you would be looking for. Now, how could you apply this to other things? You could look up, previous network information where you're trying to recover some network settings, DICOM settings. Sometimes you can back up kind of some macros that occur for the users because it takes a while to build these macros on these devices, and they just want to, get those. This is just a phenomenal tool to back up the information if you need it. But in addition to that is finding the information that's actually very specific to each device that you're working on. So these are two very basic things that we have worked with our customers on using it, and they're slaving their hard drives and finding these things. And its application is really endless because most devices are running on either Windows or a Unix-based system nowadays, and this Windows laptop can read all of that. So, we hope that that's helpful. Another trick is that, if you don't want to view it in Notepad, another thing to do is you can actually open with, and you just go to a web browser of some sort. So that takes care of, what you can do with a Windows laptop or Windows desktop to read files on an external hard drive using the cables that we had shown you. And now we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to quickly show you on some other devices. All right, and now we are on a Mac laptop, and these are extraordinarily powerful as well. We use them here at the office for some things, but some of you out there may be running some Apple products, so we wanted to be able to teach you the strategy on how to do the same thing. So same hardware, we're going to turn on our hard drive, we're going to plug it in right now, and as we plug it in, we're going to see the hard drive pop up on our desktop here. So we are waiting for the system, and we have operating system, the exact same hard drive we were just working with on the other computer, and I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And you can use the search function in Finder and whatnot. I'm not going to show you how to do that. That is pretty basic, but you can use the search function inside the operating system to go look for these types of files. But if we see it's the same error logs in here, we're going to go open them up. And this is a text file again, text file being very basic. We open it up, we see these same error logs. And for the XML, the big difference is, you double tap here, open with, instead of Notepad, TextEdit is a wonderful application in the Mac world. And you can see this kind of highlights the the XML type of syntax you would see surrounding the real content you're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the hardware logs to just show you the identical files that we have here for part number 1, serial number 1, software version 2.0. And if it's an XML format, go ahead and taking advantage of this wonderful TextEdit application here. So to make sense of it and decompiling manually with all the syntax of XML, but the content is still the same. And so that was a really quick crash course of how to use a Mac to go surf those exact same files of a hard drive that we had pulled from a device. All right, and so next we're going to move into iOS. All right, and now we got an iOS device here. I'm going to go ahead and use that USB Type-C because that's what this iPad takes to USB, and then go ahead and plug in our hard drive here. And we got this Files application in iOS. I'm going to open Files, and you can see our operating system to the left here. We're going to go click on that, and you can see all these error logs. You can search right here, and we're going to type in error. And it shows all these error logs, so it shows XML and the mockup. So we'll go ahead and open the folder just to show the folders there. We can go ahead and open this error, and you can see that opens the text file just fine. And we have these errors here. And then in addition to that, we're going to go ahead and open up this XML file, and voila, it opens it pretty easily. So we can actually do the same. We'll actually go do the hardware logs here, and as you can see, we can actually pull up the same information. As you can see, the software version 2.0, part 1, part 2, part 3, and then you can also see the XML with all the same content with just different syntax. So we're gonna forego the Android example. There's lots of NTFS file folders here. And this, just one thing about this iOS, though, to circle back to it, this is a non-NTFS drive, so we're able to read that. On Android, there are a lot of NTFS viewers that you can download from the App Store there, all open source. So extremely powerful tools here. We still prefer just the the full-on operating systems of Windows or Mac OS X to give you full flexibility. But if you're in a pinch, you can use iOS and Android to get the same information that you need. So that's how you surf and look for these files on an iOS device. It's really that simple, and we hope that you are able to use this across any device that you're servicing to find information for you to repair and service your own equipment. Everything from a desktop computer to a laptop to medical devices that run computers in their back ends for processing. At the end of the day, the super majority of all medical devices in healthcare will run some sort of operating system that, but they all must run on a file structure that is common, because that's what everybody programs on. So again, why is this really important is because we want to share with the community something that other industries have been doing since the beginning of computers, and it's been proven to be an extraordinarily useful tool for you HTMs out in the field to take advantage of this, because the investment in equipment here is less than $50 to get this done in the cables, in the adapters, and you already have a Windows device or a Mac to work on. And so you're afforded an opportunity to get a lot of this error information, some materials, build of materials, like what are the part numbers inside the machines, or anything that you're looking for on the hard drive of the device. So thanks so much for joining us. We hope it was helpful. Links are below on what we recommend on what would work for you. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. Our technical support is available and ready to walk you through this process and get you up and going so you can service the equipment. So thank you so much. Again, Larry Wynn here with Summit Imaging, and HTM, thank you so much for everything you guys do. Talk to you next time.